Hi, I'm Violet. My parents were great, and so was my life. But it only took one day for me to lose everything. It was a rainy day. Lightning was flashing in the sky, and the wind was so strong it knocked people off their feet. I called my parents after basketball practice and asked them to give me a ride home. "We'll be there soon, sweetie." However, Mom and Dad never came for me. They got into a car accident and died. I was too young, and no one told me any details. That tragedy was just the beginning of my misfortunes. For the first few weeks, I stayed at Mr. Olaf's house. He was a good friend of my parents and agreed to take me in for a while. Mr. Olaf and his wife knew what I was going through, so they were kind to me. It infuriated their son. Clouse must have felt like I was stealing his parents' attention because he hated me from the moment we met. I wish that orphan would leave. I was too devastated to deal with him. Soon enough, a social worker came over and said I could no longer live with Mr. Olaf. "Violet, you're going to be staying with your Aunt Matilda." "Finally, I'll help you pack." "Thanks, I'll manage." Aunt Matilda owned a small bakery and seemed like a kind person, but it was like I had a bad luck charm. As soon as I arrived, she hit a rough patch. Her car broke down. Then someone broke a window in her house with a stone. One day, there was even a fire in her bakery. That became the last straw for my kind aunt, and she ran out of patience. "I'm sorry, Violet, but you bring bad luck. I can't take care of you any longer." She refused to take custody of me, and the social worker, his name was Poe by the way, brought me to my great-uncle. His family wasn't nice, to be honest. They owned a diner and treated me like free labor. One day, I had to wash the dishes at their diner for 12 hours straight. Eventually, I couldn't stand it any longer and came running to Mr. Olaf. "My uncle's family is awful. Please adopt me." "Violet, I'd love to, but they won't let me do that as long as you have relatives who can take you in." There was nothing I could do but leave. Clouse followed me outside and pounced on me. "Don't you dare come here again. You're a bad luck charm. Even your parents died because of you." "Shut up." I didn't want that jerk to see me cry, so I ran back to my great-uncle. Soon, luck turned its back on him as well. He blamed me for everything and gave up custody just like my aunt. It made me believe that I attracted trouble like a magnet. Clouse was right. I am a bad luck charm. Poe tried a few more times with other relatives of mine, but sooner or later, they all kicked me out. I turned 14 and ended up in an orphanage. My roommate was a girl called Melanie, and her friendly smile lit up the world around her. "Let's be friends. You should stay away from me for your own good. I bring bad luck." "Haha, that's nonsense. I have good intuition, and my gut's telling me you are a good person." She sat down next to me and told me a secret. "We're not allowed to keep animals here, but I found a puppy and hid him in the yard. Do you want to see him?" I hesitantly nodded, and we went outside. "I named him Lucky. He's so cute." The puppy jumped on my lap and started licking my face, but then Lucky noticed a cat and gave chase. Before I could blink, the puppy was in the middle of a busy road. "I told you I brought bad luck." I ran after Lucky, grabbed him, and then saw an oncoming car. The brakes screeched, and the car stopped just a few feet away from us. A terrified woman got out of it. Wow, it was a famous singer, Selena Sunny. "Are you okay?" I nodded, and the woman gave me a weird look. Then she smiled sweetly and offered to walk me home. "Thank you, ma'am, but I'm an orphan and I don't have a home. This is the orphanage I live at." "Don't you have relatives who could take care of you?" "I'm nothing but trouble, so all my relatives abandoned me." Selena's eyebrows rose in surprise, but then she smiled warmly again. "I'll walk you to the orphanage then." And she did. Before leaving, Miss Sunny went to the office of the head of the orphanage and they talked for a long time. The next morning, I was in for a surprise. The head of the orphanage called me to his office, and I saw Selena Sunny again. "Congratulations, Violet, you have a new home." "Did I win the lottery?" "Very funny. No, Miss Sunny wants to adopt you." "What?" I looked at the singer incredulously. "Ma'am, are you sure? I'm a bad luck charm. Don't you want to choose another child?" "No, Violet, I want to make you happy." Did the famous singer really want to adopt me? Wow, I pinched myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Then nothing happened. I packed my things. Melanie caught up to us by the door when we were leaving. "Violet, I'm so happy for you. Listen, why don't you take Lucky with you?" She handed me the puppy she had been hiding behind her back. "Sooner or later, we'll get caught, and he needs a home. Miss Sunny, can Lucky come with us?" "Of course, the more the merrier." I hugged Melanie, took the puppy, and headed towards my new life. The Singer's Mansion was beautiful and huge. It reminded me of those fancy houses I built while playing The Sims. But of course, it wouldn't be me if I hadn't accidentally broken a glass statue. That was it. I was sure Miss Sunny would blow up on me, but to my surprise, she only laughed good-naturedly. Don't worry, Violet. I've been meaning to throw that statuette away anyways. Phew, had I finally found a home I wouldn't be kicked out of? That would be great. The next few weeks were amazing. Miss Sunny pampered me and brought me along to all her shoots and interviews. We spent every minute together, and I felt loved and cared for. But every Friday, something strange would happen. Selena bought white lilies and left for the whole day. She always looked sad when she came back. One evening, I called Melanie and told her that Lucky and I were doing great. You should come over. I'll show you my new home. I'd love to. Is tomorrow okay? We agreed to meet the next day. Mr. Olaf called me next. Violet, I found out you were adopted by that pompous singer Selena. I don't trust her. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm really happy here, but if you want to check up on me, you can come over tomorrow. He agreed and came the next morning. To my annoyance, he brought his nasty son along. I hadn't seen Clouse in several years, and to be honest, I hadn't missed him one bit. The bad luck charm seems to be doing well. My name is Violet, or is that too hard to remember for someone with a brain as tiny as yours? We started fighting like cats and dogs. Meanwhile, Mr. Olaf glared at Selena. There was tension in the air. Luckily, Melanie arrived next and lit up the world around her with her smile again. We all had lunch together, and then Mr. Olaf asked to talk to Miss Sunny in private. All right. Kids, leave us for a minute. I shrugged and said I would give Melanie and Clouse a tour of our house. My friend looked around with fascination, but Clouse reminded me why I couldn't stand him. If I were you, I wouldn't be so happy. That singer doesn't love you. I bet she only adopted a poor orphan for good PR. Clouse showed me articles on the internet praising Selena for adopting an abandoned girl, but I knew he was just trying to hurt me. Shut up, Clouse. You're getting on my nerves. Oh, I'm shaking in my boots. What's in here? I don't know. Miss Sunny forbid me from going in there. Well, she didn't forbid me, did she? He pushed the door open and walked inside. Curiosity got the better of me, and Melanie and I followed him. We found ourselves in a kid's room. It looked like a princess lived in it. There was a doll and the Sleeping Beauty book lying on a pink 4-poster bed inside. To be honest, it all looked a bit weird. Clouse laughed and twirled his fingers at his temple. Selena Sunny isn't all there, huh? I wanted to snap back at him, but then we heard raised voices in the living room and hurried back. Mr. Olaf and Selena were shouting at each other. I've had enough. Security, escort this man off the premises. What? Don't touch me. I'm leaving. Mr. Olaf stormed off in a huff. Clouse ran after him. I asked Miss Sunny what happened, but she wasn't in the mood to talk. Melanie stayed over, and we had a pajama party. We went to the kitchen to get some snacks late at night, and I heard a noise coming from that princess room. When we peeked in, we saw Miss Sunny reading the Sleeping Beauty fairy tale to that doll. Then she kissed her and covered her with a blanket. Sweet dreams, my princess. Melanie and I exchanged puzzled glances. Okay. This is getting creepy. I think it's cute. My friend and I watched videos on the Private Diary channel and ate chips late into the night. As soon as I saw Melanie off the next morning, I got a call from Clouse. I know something that will really blow your mind. Really? Really? I overheard my parents talking. Selena Sunny caused the accident that killed your parents. She probably gave a bribe to the police to go free. Stop talking nonsense. You're lying to make me mad. If you don't believe me, ask Mr. Poe. I didn't want to think about his words any longer and hung up. Then I went to Selena's room to ask for permission to go out. When I walked in, she was covering up a small scar on her face with concealer and clearly wasn't expecting to see me. Oh, don't worry. I got into an accident a few years ago. That's how I got this scar. Wait, had Clouse been telling the truth? Selena could have gotten that scar in the accident that killed my parents. Holy cow! I needed to get to the bottom of it. It was time to find Mr. Poe and get some answers. Is it true that Selena Sunny was driving the car that crashed into my parents? How did you find out about that? Did she tell you that herself? Oh no! Was it true then? I was adopted by the person responsible for the death of my parents? At that moment, Mr. Poe got a call. Wait for me here. I need to answer this, but we'll talk as soon as I'm done. He stepped aside, and I stood there, frozen with shock. Tears blurred my vision, and I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't stay there, so I ran into the street without waiting for Mr. Poe to finish his conversation. At first, I wandered around the city for a long time, trying to recover from the shock, and then my feet led me to Mr. Olaf's house. All my relatives have abandoned me. I'll ask him to adopt me instead of Miss Sunny. But to my shock, he was cold and rude to me when I came to his place. I don't care about you anymore. Please, I can't live with her. But Mr. Olaf just slammed the door in my face. Had he turned his back on me because he was afraid I would bring him bad luck? As I was leaving, I took one last look at the house and saw Clouse in the window. He was looking back at me and seemed sad. I didn't know where to go. I didn't want to go back to Miss Sunny. Returning to the orphanage wasn't an option either. They'd just call Selena. Miss Sunny was to blame for all my problems. I wanted to punish her for that. But how? After all, I was just a kid, and she had a lot of connections and money. It all made me feel so gutted when I sat down right on the street and burst into tears. At that moment, Melanie called me, and I told her everything I had found out. I ran away from home. I'd rather live on the street. I'll spend the night in the alley behind the mall and try to figure something out tomorrow. I hope Lucky is going to be okay. Melanie tried to say something, but I turned off the phone so no one could find me. It started to rain in the evening. I tried to hide in a box, but the cardboard quickly got wet. And then I saw 3 people step out of the darkness towards me. A shiver ran down my spine. They could be criminals. I closed my eyes in fear, and when I opened them, I saw Melanie, Mr. Poe, and Miss Sunny in front of me. "What are you doing here?" "We couldn't find you, so we called Melanie." "I'm sorry. I was worried about you. So I told them where to find you." Miss Sunny tried to hug me, but I pulled away. "Don't touch me! It's your fault I'm an orphan!" Selena looked down and sadly said, "We need to talk. But first, let me show you something." We got into Miss Sunny's car and drove to a hospital. There was a girl lying in one of the wards. Next to her were white lilies in a vase. "This is my daughter, Lily, my sleeping beauty." Selena sat down on the bed. Tears glistened in her eyes. I was frozen in place. That was the last thing I expected. "What's with her?" "She's in a coma. The reason for that accident was bad weather. No one was to blame. I got off with a scar, but my daughter..." "Oh, I'm so sorry." "I'm sorry too. You lost your parents in that accident." And then Selena told me something that turned my world upside down. After the accident, Miss Sunny secretly opened a bank account that I would only be able to use after I turned 16 and deposited a large sum into it. "I knew you had a lot of relatives and hoped they would be able to take good care of you. So I was shocked when I found out you were living in an orphanage. That's when I decided to adopt you and make you happy. It's the truth, Violet. This accident took away the people we loved most. We need each other." I was so overwhelmed I burst out crying and threw my arms around Selena. I let go of my pain and decided to finally be happy. "So are you staying with Miss Sunny, or do I need to find you another family?" "I'm staying. I found my home." Selena and I grew even closer. After a while, I asked her why she fought with Mr. Olaf. "He demanded I give up custody of you because he wanted to become your guardian himself. I immediately realized he wanted to get his hands on the money I put in your account, so I told that bastard he wouldn't be able to use it anyways." Now I knew why Mr. Olaf had been so rude to me and said he didn't care about me anymore. One day, Melanie and I were doing homework together when Clouse came over and asked if we could talk. "All of those bad things that happened to your relatives were part of my father's plan. He's the reason you ended up in an orphanage." "What?" "He wanted your relatives to give up custody of you so that he could adopt you and get your money. He was furious Miss Sunny beat him to adopting you when you were finally sent to the orphanage." It all made sense now. I wasn't a trouble magnet. A vile and greedy man just messed with my life. "I'm sorry for calling you a bad luck charm, Violet. I didn't know it was all my father's fault. I don't want to be like him." "I told you it was nonsense. You don't bring bad luck." The 3 of us became best friends. I stayed with Selena, and we often visited her daughter in the hospital together. Miss Sunny was reading Lily her favorite fairy tale during one of our visits when I saw Lily's hand move. "Mom, look!" That gave us hope Lily would wake up one day. "Oh, I'm sorry. I called you Mom." "I'm glad you did. Now I have 2 daughters." You know what I realized? Good people shine the brightest when times are dark, and misfortune sometimes brings people closer. Tell me in the comments below, have you ever met people who could light up a room that changed your life?